the whole network here, and just about the time we were getting it started, things fell apart. So we didn't want it to fall apart here in Akron and Summit County. So we're still here. So glad to have you. There were other hands. I'm curious what attracted you.
I read about it in the Enjoy section of the Akron.
Great. Somebody else had a hand up. Yeah.
I grew up here, but I was living right here for a long time and have been involved in similar things in other cities. And I was just trying to see what's good in Akron.
Cool. So I'm curious, what cities have you lived in, been in?
That have done similar things, mostly in Portland, Oregon.
Portland?
And then after some time in Norway and Colorado.
Norway and Colorado. Wow. Lucky you.
Yeah.
And some cool places. And we encourage all of you tonight as we have our conversation. We will have some formal presentations, but to the degree that you say, hey, I've seen XYZ in Portland or Norway or whatever, we'll look forward to hearing your experiences as well. Every month we gather on the third Wednesday, right here. So you can mark your calendars to come back next month and every month thereafter. So this evening, hold on just a second. We've been working on really clarifying sort of what our mission statement is. And so it's a work in progress, but I'd like to share sort of our working mission right now with you, just so you have a sense of what the purpose of GAINS is. We strengthen and grow Akron's green business ecosystem by cultivating creative space for knowledge, collaboration, and innovation. GAINS builds community sustainability awareness. We foster green business exchange of knowledge, spur collective calls for action, and we catalyze innovative partnerships. So we're trying that on for size, and it'll probably evolve just a bit as we go through the next couple of months. So tonight we're really focusing on placemaking, which actually there's quite a buzz around town and frankly across the country about placemaking. It's an overarching concept that's also a concrete tool for building our communities, improving a neighborhood, a city, or a region. According to the Project for Public Spaces, placemaking reimagines public spaces as the heart of every community. This week, we've already experienced two major gatherings in town. One in North Hill, Jason Segedy from AMATS has really led the charge on this effort around better blocks, really imagining a specific area of North Hill for placemaking and really, we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. You can weigh in, Jason, when the time's right. And last evening, we were at the Akron Art Museum, where the community began to imagine a new outdoor public space to the west of the building. And as we were doing our World Cafe, the concept of a heart center, meaning H-E-A-R-T, heart center for the downtown area, was beginning to be articulated. A living, breathing public space that's inclusive, interactive, and creative. So there are all kinds of conversations that are really bubbling up and taking shape here in Akron. And tonight we're excited to really focus our conversation this evening on this subject as well. Let me just give you a little bit of background on placemaking just so that we have a foundation for our conversation tonight. Placemaking is a transformative approach that inspires people to create and improve their public spaces, strengthening the connection between people and places that they share. Rooted in community-based participation, placemaking involves the planning, design, management, and programming of public spaces. More than just creating better urban design of public spaces, placemaking facilitates creative patterns of activities and connections social, and ecological. Very much in line with the concept of permaculture, which we've discussed here at Gaines many times. So placemaking is really about defining a place and supporting its ongoing evolution. It's how people are more collectively and intentionally shaping our world and our future on this planet. So what we'd like to do this evening is start with a couple of formal presentations. We're going to begin tonight with Chris Norman, who's the Director of Urban Planning for the East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation. And for those of you who might be aware of the work of EANDC over the last several years, they've done a phenomenal job of developing a neighborhood revitalization plan that incorporates a lot of green infrastructure features, both in physical form as well as working with the community and building up the community in a sustainable way. So, Chris, please share with us the work that you're doing and why it matters to this work of sustainability and placemaking.
Well, thank you very much. I distributed a few pages from the revitalization plan that give examples of some of the alternative land uses that I, for one, am hoping will be stimulated by this Akron parcel survey that we were fortunate enough to engage in this past summer. I'm also, Karen is helping to pass around a page that has the preliminary results of the survey, and on the back is a map that will look, it's better than nothing, but it's not much better than nothing. But you can see it. And I'll give some explanation further as far as what the data is. But first let me say, good evening, I'm Chris Norman. I'm the Director of Urban Planning for East Akron Neighborhood Development. I only use this voice when I'm telling my son to go to bed or introduce myself. But that I'm speaking on behalf of East Akron Neighborhood Development. So this data, the survey, is the City of Akron. What they're going to do with it is up to the City of Akron. We were the hands and feet of the survey. Western Reserve Land Conservancy, the Thriving Hughes Institute, they're sort of the brain, if you will. And we helped to pull this off as the local contact, but again, it's going to be up to the city and how they want to implement it. They have, I think they're looking at sometime in December when the report would be completed for the city. So I'm fortunate enough to have an inside track on some of the information, and I thought, hey, if I can share what I can share, I'm going to share, so here I am sharing. Okay, so let me give you a quick piece about East Akron Neighborhood Development. Okay, so our mission is to improve communities by providing quality and affordable housing, comprehensive home ownership services, and economic development opportunities. We build affordable housing. We provide services for homeowners to help them fix up their homes. We also help with counseling to help folks buy their first home. We are a Community Development Corporation, or a CDC, the biggest one in Akron, and even though it says East Akron, we work all around the city, we work in other counties, etc. Again, just briefly about East Akron Neighborhood Development. This is an economic impact that was done a few years ago, looking at the value of dollars invested through East Akron Neighborhood Development, EANDC, and you see a return of about a little over $3.50 for every $1 that's invested in our efforts. So we have 5 lines of business. I put my line of business in red because I could do that. But it's a new line of business, community building. So real estate and economic development, that's really our sweet spot. And one of our signature projects is Dave's on the east side. It's their market and exchange coming together, Dave's Supermarket. It was the first supermarket built in the city of Akron in many decades. And as you know, supermarkets are really essential for building whole communities and supporting families and healthy food choices. So we're very proud of that, but it's been about 10 years. Property management, we manage other properties, but mainly the ones that we've built. Homeowner preservation, again, helping folks to take care of their homes. Often that's through energy efficiency programs, etc. And then the Center for Home Ownership, helping families to become eligible to buy their first home. community building is really focused on the revitalization plan I'm going to mention at the end of the talk, but also in community outreach and engagement. So the reason we wanted to engage on this Akron parcel survey was because it fits nicely into our East Akron Neighborhood Revitalization Plan. The revitalization plan looks at classic development as well as alternative land uses, and this was a way for us to see potential not just in our neighborhood but throughout the city of Akron. And maybe when we can model some of our activities on the east side and help other community development corporations in the city to do some of the same. So community building is a new initiative for us. So the AK survey, that's my title for it, because it rhymes me. The AK survey, and this was done really looking at all the parcels throughout the city. We're talking over 98,000 parcels, business, commercial, as well as residential parcels in the city. And we had 12 surveyors that worked on the project with us, and they used the iPad to take pictures from the sidewalk of each parcel. And this was uploaded to a map electronically. This was the first time, this is the biggest project that Western Reserve Land Conservancy had undertaken, and we were proud to help out. So again, Western Reserve and the city of Akron, you can see a smushed EANDC in between, because we were really sort of just the hands and by visual. So why the survey? To create an inventory of the current occupancy condition of the buildings and land use. You'll see we gave a grade to each parcel. Create an inventory of the tree canopy. While we were at it, they indicated whether there were street trees at the property. And then from that, look at a pattern throughout the city as far as current land use, the condition of the land use, and perhaps opportunities for stabilization and reinvestment in the neighborhoods and business districts. So here's the gang of 12. There's more than 12 in the picture, but most of the people wearing vests were surveyors. There. As I mentioned, they used an iPad to go around. So they were connected through the cloud. They were working in teams, and they would be in front of a parcel, and they'd click on the parcel, and they could indicate online the condition of the land use. This is really space age. The thing is, though, that internet access throughout the city is uneven, and so we had a lot of time for surveyors standing around waiting for the information to upload. Or after the fact, we found out that not all the information did upload. And so one of the things that we learned on the project is the importance of having an app, because there's an app for that. You just simply take a picture of it, and then you can upload it later. Because some parts of the city, it was sort of surprising, but Ellen really had some trouble spots, but you can get Goodyear Heights, it was okay. So it was just sort of different parts of the city. So as I mentioned, they gave a grade, and they were trained by Western Reserve Land Conservancy because Western Reserve had done these parcel surveys in other parts of Northeast Ohio. Lorraine was their first one. They've done parts of Cleveland. They've since have done Sandusky. As I say, we were over 98,000 parcels. So when I heard Sandusky was like 13,000 parcels, I was like, stop it, man. You do that in 2 weeks. This took us over 10 weeks to do. So they went and they looked at every parcel, an A grade. Again, no visible signs of deterioration. It looks just about pristine condition. B, there may be some minor alterations that can be made, some minor improvements, by and large, in very sound shape. A C, and I don't know how well you can see these pictures, they're pretty good, but C, you can really start to see some cracking, some needs a paint job, crumbling concrete, this kind of stuff. So, and then the D really starts, typically D properties were boarded up, but you just get an idea that by the time you get to F, these are houses you can look through. They may not have a roof. They're really a hazard to have in your community. But frankly, even a D property or a C property, I think would be troubling, not just to the neighbors, but to the immediate neighborhood. And there are some neighborhoods that have several properties like this in them. So we divided up the city into sections. We assigned our teams colors because when you're out there working, it's kind of frustrating to turn around and you see one of your teammates when the other teams is just finished surveying the area. Our teams, this is really a challenge as far as coordinating the effort. But again, this was the human side of the survey. We continue to emphasize the importance of this really historical effort, and they put in a lot of hours. But we had to really learn how to manage our folks. We had 12 people, 6 teams and there was a lot of opportunity for miscommunication, but we worked through it. So, like I say, they were taking pictures from the sidewalk, going house by house, parcel by parcel. And this gets to the handout that I provided. So when we looked at the overall structures, again, over 98,000, we looked at not only the grade from the top there, A, B, C, D. Most of the parcels were either A or B grade, but just shy of 75% were occupied, and yet the condition was fairly good. But of the unoccupied structures, the abandoned structures, we had, of course, a higher degree of those were rated D or F. And so, obviously, an occupied home is more likely to be taken care of. An owner-occupied home even further likely to be taken care of. But it started to give an image of where some of the disinvestment or opportunities are in the city. Here's a kind of a pie chart with the same information for you. But what I think is most interesting is some of the maps themselves. So, on the map, the darker the color is, the lower the grade was given to that parcel. Again, from the sidewalk, our surveyors. So, on the map, you can see primarily blue. Blue means, or purple, means that it's an occupied property. You can see a little bit of tan scattered throughout there, but by and large, this is a purple map. This is West Market, West Exchange, and you can see there's a little bit of, but by and large, purple map. You see the National Park up there with the green fingers. This is East Market and East Exchange. So now you can see quite a bit of, I hope I'm not getting you guys away, but you see a lot of variation now in the map. The tan, I don't have a pointer, but the tan represents vacant lot. The yellow, and the darker the yellow gets, it turns to red. The yellow means it was judged to be an unoccupied property. Okay, so you still see some occupied stuff, but now compared to, we're putting side by side, you know, West Market Exchange, East Market Exchange. So I was looking at the map, I was like, how can I really illustrate, you know, kind of differences? Now this is, of course, across the city, right? But for my neck of the woods on the east side, you can really see the pattern, if you will, of disinvestment, but there's also opportunity. Where can we be creative in land use? How can we build around some of the assets and stabilize our neighborhoods? And you can really see some of the opportunity. But you don't have to go across the city. This is Firestone Park. And at the bottom of the map, you can see again, primarily purple. Purple, and you can see some of the lighter stuff, but again, it's purple. But once you start to get north of Archwood, even just Firestone there, you really start to see it move. I think it's almost like the map is moving as the different colors start to be introduced. But again, that means you've got more vacant buildings, you have more vacant land, more abandoned buildings. You start to have properties that are in deteriorating condition. So to me, I think it's really, but again, that's just in one community. And the dynamics that work there, I think, are interesting. Okay, so again, why East Akron? Why did we engage in this work? It's part of our revitalization plan. So this is some of the pages. Our revitalization plan was created with the Cleveland Urban Design Collaborative, which is a collaboration between Cleveland State and Kent State. So you have the urban planners from CSU and the architects from KSU. They work together and you get urban design. Well, so again, looking at some of we had over 400 vacant lots in East Cleveland, East Akron. And this was a way for us to start to think about some innovative ways we could reuse the properties. So in the revitalization plan, we have 4 different activities. You can see the classic development, building new homes. And then there's also rehab of existing housing structure. And then the use of vacant lots, as well as community organizing. I put that in. It wasn't originally in the plan, but what's the point? If you have the neighborhood, the community driving what's going to go on, they're really participating, then you wind up building stuff that maybe the people don't really care for, or not building it the way that they're excited about. So I put in community organizing.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, I realize I don't think Councilman's going to make it, so if I'm going too long.
So let me just give a quick,
Sure.
update. So Councilman Moneypenny's mother had surgery today, and we knew that he might not be able to make it, and we recently received word that he can.
Oh, good, okay.
So
Not good.
you have a little more time, although we also have some other things that we want to do.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have a target area, you can see the different land uses. Again, our target area, you can see the pattern. Remember, we're talking about the purple and the occupied parcels. This is our target area. You have Robinson School at the top. Arlington corridor is on the left, the second line over. That's our target for our revitalization plan. The idea is that we're going to start here, but we're looking to leverage these activities in the rest of our service area and hopefully collaboratively help spread what the successes are around other parts of the city. But you can see, again, the tan are vacant lots, the purple and the blue are occupied, the darker the purple and blue, the worse condition those buildings are judged to be in. So what to do? Well, of course, we are building new single-family homes. We're also creating pathways. This is an example from Duane Avenue, here at the bottom, to Robinson School, 2 vacant parcels that adjoin, and so creating a pathway through there. I was working on that yesterday with the pickaxe, trying to break through some of that gravel and the muck so that when we actually put the green plantings in, they'll thrive. And the idea is that we create better connectivity to that community asset, which is the school. Rain gardens, I think most are familiar with the concept, but it's a way to also slow down the rainfall and keep that on site, reduces the amount of use that's going on, overuse on our combined sewer water infrastructure here. It also adds additional beauty in the neighborhood and creates a different texture for habitat right there in the neighborhood. The vendor stalls right along Arlington, the idea is we've got some entrepreneurs that really they don't need year-round space, but if they can have a space maybe on Saturday, that they can set up temporary spaces sheltered, and yet it gives that flexibility. So on Sunday, if we say we're right along Arlington Church of God, you can still park underneath. So kind of flex space vendor stalls is one of the ideas for economic development. And this just gives you a view of Arlington right along the street. Some of the investments that we're calling for includes gardens and orchards, etc. So there's my contact information. Now I know I kind of raced through the parcel survey, but I wanted to give you at least a bird's eye view of what it is, and I'm hoping we can have some more discussion. I think we're going to have questions later, maybe. So.
Yeah, I think, first of all, let's give Chris a I think what we're going to do is, since Councilman Moneypenny is not going to be able to join us, we're going to play a little jazz here with the people that are in the room to build upon what Chris just said. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge that Councilman Russ Neal is with us. Councilman? And Councilman Rich Swirsky is also with us. We appreciate your presence and participation, and certainly weigh in when it makes sense. So I think what we'd like to do now, on the heels of Chris's presentation, we'll bring all of you back up for sort of a joint conversation. I'd like to ask Jason Segedy to come up and really talk about what's evolving now in North Hill as the first pilot for the Better Blocks initiative, because it really is a beautiful example of placemaking. So Jason, do you just want to share with us the concept? How many of you saw the great article in the paper today? If you have not seen it, go online, check it out, because it's a nice Q&A with Jason Roberts that really clearly explains what this is all about. But maybe you can just capture what it is first so that folks get it and what's going on.
Sure. Thanks, Sue, and thanks all of you for coming. And I think I can even tie a little bit about what Chris just talked about into that effort, because I think what he's presenting is enables the city and people throughout it to do kind of a strategic 30,000-foot look at what's going on, and then the Better Block's very much an example, I think, of a tactical, on-the-ground effort to fix that. And just a little bit of context, I've been thinking a lot about these issues, especially of vacant and abandoned housing, and my background's transportation, so I'll tie that in a little bit at the end, but the city of Akron, just for context, in 1960 had 290,000 people. Today it's got 199,000. In 2000 we had 217,000. I'm going to throw a couple more numbers at you. We lost...
It's in my presentation. You want to use my slide.
Okay, that's okay. Sorry about that. But we lost 74,000 people in 40 years. We gained 139 households. So we lost 74,000 people, but actually gained households, and that's because household size from the 60s on was shrinking so much. More older people, people like me that didn't get married until they were 40 and were single for a long time, less kids. So for a long, long time we lost people in this city but didn't lose houses or households. Well, since 2000 we actually have lost 6,000 households and 17,000 people, and I think that's very much because of what Chris was presenting. We're at the point now where we don't have enough housing anymore, and so it gets old. Does anybody know how many houses we tear down in Akron every year? Get wild guess?
500.
500 is exactly how many we tear down. So you get the gold star bill. You know how many single family houses are built every year?
12.
10. You're really so
How many health food restaurants?
there's one coming in February.
No, table. Or is it May?
Well, I have a question. What's the purpose of the houses being torn down? Are they just dilapidated?
A lot of them are just old. They're those F's and D's that Chris was presenting, and I just say all that to illustrate that we're now at the point where we're not just losing people anymore, we're losing households, and that has a direct ramification on the fiscal health of the city. Every person we lose means everybody else's water rates go up and sewer rates, and a lot of the services that still have to be provided. So I think a strategic goal of a lot of us is to find a way to regrow and restabilize these neighborhoods. And that won't, sometimes that'll be rehabbing houses, sometimes it'll be building new ones. That's why I'm really excited about the Better Block project, because what that is, we looked at areas throughout the city. We decided on Temple Square in North Hill, which is Cuyahoga Falls Avenue in North Main. The idea is to do a couple things to the street, make some changes temporarily to Main Street. Could be bike lanes, wider sidewalks, do some aesthetic improvements like street trees. We're working with the property owner on that block who owns a lot of the properties. He's willing to let us use some vacant spaces for a weekend to put a pop-up coffee shop or perhaps a Bhutanese restaurant, a bookstore, an art gallery, whatever the case may be. And then also the idea of doing a community event. And North Hill's a great neighborhood. I mean, we have a bunch of great neighborhoods for that in Akron. And the idea, I should say before I go any further, is we want to be able to do this in lots of neighborhoods. This is the pilot that the Knight Foundation wanted to do, but I'd love to see these in every neighborhood. And every neighborhood's great in its own way and has different amenities and so forth. But North Hill we liked too because it's a very culturally diverse neighborhood. There's a large African American population, there's a large white population, a lot of people who a couple generations ago their parents came or grandparents from Italy, and then there's a very large and growing population of immigrants from Asia from various places like Bhutan and Burma and so forth. So we really like the idea of kind of celebrating that cultural melting pot and bringing all these folks together. The target is to do it in May, and we really would like to encourage all of you guys to participate. Tina Ugrin is helping organize it. You can feel free to talk to me afterward. She's a North Hill resident.
There that night, who comes back here time after time and is out there in the community actually doing. Before we go on to our next presenter, I just want to make an important connection between Chris's presentation and what Jason had to say. It's about data-informed decision-making. Okay? So I saw some of the other maps from the western
Western Reserve Land Conservancy.
Western Reserve Land Conservancy. I've been starting a new project, and I have all kinds of new acronyms going through my head. So, but anyway, I saw some of the other maps that were generated this afternoon with that project for the city of Akron. And with North Hill in particular, what was fascinating was to see the diversity that Jason was talking about in terms of income. The northern part of North Hill has a higher income than many other parts of North Hill, so there's diversity, even though it's segregated, still, there's diversity in income, and certainly the housing and commercial districts and the population that's there. Oscar is here from the Corinne community, who's been doing phenomenal work in North Hill in particular, but all over the city. And so we have a really strong immigrant community and thriving that we're excited to see engaged as well. So that data that's coming out of the work that you guys did, Chris, is really going to give us some good information upon which to make decisions across the city. And this is a good example. So I wanted to go on to our next presenter, Rick Stockburger. There you are. The Vice President of Collaboration. I love that.
I like it.
Now, I think that's a relatively new breed of titles, don't you think? Vice President of Collaboration, we need a lot more of those titles. At Escalys, am I correct? I'll ask that you really share what Escalys does, but basically you help companies and organizations collaborate, right? So if you could share with us your work that's specific to furthering placemaking, and I know you've been collaborating with AMATS and Jason, but give us an overview of what you do and how this all ties into placemaking.
How's everybody doing? Are we having a good night?
Yeah.
That's the start. So, actually, to start, this is something I always like to do, but can everybody look to your right and just tell that person that you appreciate that they came here tonight? Not everybody's looking to the right. All right. Next, everybody look to the left and tell that person. Now look at the more attractive person.
Thanks.
All right. I try to make everybody uncomfortable as I am up here. Good job, guys. So, what do? I hit the wrong button. All right. So for Escalys, one of the main things that we do is we get behind our clients. That is literally me in Detroit behind my favorite and best client that we have. It's interesting what I do. It's really, really simple what I do. This is something that we all learned in elementary school, in high school, in college, and then we all went into our careers and we're like, I know everything. I figured it out. I'm here. Found my career. So what we teach people to do is learn before, during, and after every action that they take. It's really simple, right? Like learn before, like if you're about to do something, go ask somebody else that's done it, and done it probably better than you're gonna do it. Ask them how they did it. Learn during that action. Stop for a second and think, what did I just figure out? How did I just do that? Afterwards, think about the entire project. And how did we just do that? Now, it sounds simple. It's not easy. It's not easy at all to convince yourself to remember how to learn again, remember how to study yourself. We've done this for a couple of organizations. We've got a pretty decent client list in our pocket. Goldman Sachs, BP, Energy Ohio Network. Like I said,
AMATS, right in the middle.
my favorite, that's why I put it in the middle, so it draws you right to it, is AMATS. But really what we teach people is how to open up, and like those little tools that I just talked about, the learning before, learning during, and learning after, it's really just a practice in communication with your team, with other people that are outside your organization. suddenly then you're finding ways that you can collaborate. You're finding people that have done stuff that you would like to do. And then you get to do it better because you're learning. And if we're learning all the time, we can collaborate better. So, I've got a background in quite a few things, but one of the biggest things that I did, I was in the United States Army for 8 years. I served in Kosovo and Afghanistan. It was a very interesting time. I was an infantryman who was able to be attached to a Special Forces unit in Afghanistan. One of the main things that I was in charge of was humanitarian aid. And oddly enough, nation building, which turned into community building. This guy from Columbiana County, who later moved to Akron, is in Afghanistan trying to figure out their culture and how we're going to create something new. So what did I do? I started learning. Start collaborating. We were able to build 3 schools. I dug wells with my hands, unfortunately sometimes while being shot at. Let me tell you guys what, we have some problems here in Akron. You're more than likely not going to get shot at while you're out there trying to do good for your community. More than likely. That's a joke. Please, you're not going to. We have a very safe community. So one of the main things that I learned there was always leave a place better than you found it. I don't think that we teach this enough outside of the military. That if you go somewhere, don't just like clean up after yourself, but try to leave a mark. Try to leave the place better than you found it. It's something that is so simple. Once again, it's not always easy. So, I was fortunate enough to be able to go on this Akron to Detroit trip. I think a gentleman might recognize somebody in here. Rich. This is David Swirsky. I don't know where Rich is.
Richard.
He's hiding. So, your son's amazing and bought into my crazy. So, we go on this trip.
It's an inherited trait.
We go on this trip, and we're looking around, and we're like, all right, like we did the things that the entire group did. We went to Pony Ride that evening. We went to the vodka distillery, which was fantastic, great food there. You know, and in the morning we went to the D Hive, which Josh McManus created, and that's something that we've been talking about replicating here in Akron. And the point of the trip, well, what we told everybody, the point of the trip was that we're just going to go, get together, and Josh has had so many conversations with so many people, it's like, I just want to show you this. What actually ended up happening was I got to meet about 30 other people in Akron that I probably would have never met that were doing amazing things, and I had to sit on a bus with them for like 4 hours. Amazing things can happen on a bus for 4 hours because you don't have anything to do but talk to somebody. And we can start learning, again, see what's happening, about what everybody's doing. And then we can figure out how we can be a part of it. But remember, it always starts with learning. So, my crazy, I'm going to leave Detroit better than I found it. Some would say that's not horribly hard. Some would say that's really hard. And this is something that Jason, I give so much credit to him for so many things that brought to my attention, as well as we were talking about actually on the bus ride home, is everybody has this idea that either Detroit sucks because all of this disinvestment and that there's a humanitarian crisis with water there and the UN's visiting, or the places that we went to, Detroit's awesome. They're building all of these amazing things, and it's just people working together and trying to leave their place better than they found it. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to say it's this or that. It can be both. That's okay. Also, Akron can be both. It's okay. We can have bad parts that we're working on getting better. We can have good parts that we're working on getting better. I think we always forget that like good isn't world class. Good is good. So let's get better. Oh, I kind of forgot what we did. So we went to Recycle Here, the only recycling center in all of Detroit. And as we started out with appreciating people, I wanted to let Detroit know that I appreciated it. I appreciated their hard work. I see Detroit as Akron's father. You know, a lot of us say we're related to Cleveland so closely in all of this, but Cleveland's more like our older brother. They made some steel. Pittsburgh's a brother too. They made some steel. We had the rubber, and we sent it all to Detroit, to our dad, to make cars. I mean, that's the relation, is Detroit was buying what we were doing from all of these different Rust Belt cities. I wanted to let them know. So we took 100% recycled materials. We had 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours. And we created this sign. Now, David's a better artist than me, but to be honest, Rich, you didn't raise a great artist. I know.
That's also an inherited trait.
So, yeah, and we put this in a very, very visible place. And it's something that some people laughed at. And then I got a couple Twitter messages because I posted it on my Twitter, and I actually saw it a couple times on Twitter from people that I didn't know. That was like, what do you mean Akron appreciates us? What's that? It means what it says. Really? Huh. Wasn't that nice? That made me feel a little bit better. I had an email conversation with a friend of mine that didn't know that I was in Detroit, and was like, I saw this sign from your city. It was cool. It's like put a smile on my face. Does that make a city better? Is a city based on personal experience? Is a city great when I walk down the street and I have a good experience? So if I bring somebody to this city and they have a really great experience, they go to, I don't know,
Musica.
They go to Musica and see an amazing band, and they're like, wow, this city is amazing. Akron's the place I want to be. Makes it better, right? And they have a perception of Akron that's good. There's also the opposite of that. These things can all be done on a personal level, that they go somewhere, something bad happens to them, and for the rest of their lives, Akron's a bad city. So, what I think we're charged with, and I'm actually going to kind of skip Jason's slide that he
Stole?
he didn't steal because I stole it, all right? I totally stole it. I totally stole it.
Yes,
And was like,
is that a sticker?
I need to talk about this because it's really important. And if you actually look at the numbers too, like Jason explained them extremely well, but I mean, there's something wrong between 2000 and 2010 in that households. That's over 6,000 households we lost, when for 40 years before that, we didn't. Something happened. Does anybody have any idea what happened?
Collapse of rubber interfaces.
In 2000 to 2010?
I bet you're talking about
Yeah, I mean, something happened in those 10 years that changed us. That we lost houses. We lost people. More and differently than we lost in other years.
Foreclosures. 2008 crisis, economic crisis.
So, when was the last time anybody here ever solved a major problem and didn't mean to? Like, did it on accident?
Like 3 hours ago.
Have you ever, like, just solved something that you were like, yes, I didn't mean for that to happen at all? Please, if you have, like, come, tell me about it, all about it. I need to know.
So, back to the rubber industry.
Yeah.
So, the understanding is that for every one manufacturing job, you have 3 jobs that support one. So, when you lose an industry, whatever it is, and Akron in between 60, 70 to 80, and into 90, that was all a reflection of losing those rubber jobs. But then, without an equal industry in place, you're going to start to lose those 3 jobs. Those are supply chain jobs.
Yeah.
So that, I think, reflects that, and that is where when you think about sustainability, it's about looking at supply chain.
Right.
And how you start to build those businesses and those industries, local industries, that can spiral back up.
Yeah.
That's the core of sustainability.
Yeah, and I mean, just the major point that I'm just trying to make is 6,000 households per lot. We've been losing population since the 60s. But those households, that's something different, and that's something that we need to grab. And we need to intentionally, we need to make a decision, as you guys are all really, really intelligent people that really, really care about your community here. I mean, every one of you shows up to this regularly. We need to get together and make an intentional movement to make us a better city that's not losing households. So, I'll leave you guys with a little challenge. How many of you are in here? How many people we have tonight?
We have almost 50, 40.
Almost 50? So, if everybody actually had like 2 extra hours a week, I know that's asking a lot, but I usually end up sitting on the couch and watching TV or something for 2 hours a day. I could probably find 2 hours a week. So that's if everybody here committed to doing something like that, and I know we all can, that'd be 100 hours. That's 2.5 people working full-time every week to try and fix that problem. On top of the people that are already doing that every single day. So, I don't know, what would you guys do? I'm done.
Thanks for serving.
Ah.